Unfortunately, we have to do another one of these videos, and I must say I take no joy in having to do these, but I do think it's important to get this information out. Unfortunately, we had another plane crash incident in Philadelphia a couple nights ago. I wanted to give it some time and be able to little more details come out, and I was able to gather a lot of information and kind of show you guys what may have happened and hopefully give you a unique perspective from a pilot's point of view of stuff that you may not have seen on the news. We're going to review some new details that have come out. We're going to review some of the new videos. We're going to look at the ATC audio. I'm going to give you my opinion as well as a Learjet pilot who also, I think he had a really good take. And I think that this might be the key to figuring out what happened. And then we're going to review aviation statistics and just kind of talk about, is it still safe to fly? Because that's a question I seem to be getting a lot of. By the way, I got a lot of requests for this video. Let me know what you think. If you would please give me a comment and let me know how I can improve because I'm trying to get the content out and I want some feedback. I would like to know how I can do better. If you watch my previous video, this is going to be a little more raw and less cluttered with info. So it's going to be more just us hanging out, me giving you my opinion and just kind of talking way more casually. So let me know if you like this style. First off, let's look at the plane route. This was out of Philly. This was a medevac, and we're going to cover the difference between a 135 operator and a 121 carrier and some of that differences. But it took off right here out of Philly off runway 24 and it started the climb and about 60 right just before 607 it suddenly started a sharp descent, and within 7 as you'll see in this video, within 7, 8 seconds, it just straight nosedive straight down, crashing, which looks appear to be right in the middle of the street. Let's watch some of this audio real quick here, or listen to this audio here and see if we can get some more info on this.
5010. Medevac Med Service 056 affirmative. On departure, turn right heading 290, runway 24, clear for takeoff. Medevac Med Service 056, contact Philly departure 123.8.
Okay, so they kind of chop that up there, but essentially when you take off, you have different controller frequencies, and right there you're on tower. When you actually take off and land, you'll be on tower frequency. As soon as you get off the ground, and I mean probably sometimes it's 200 feet, sometimes it's 1,000, maybe a little bit longer on very rare cases, but typically you're sent right over to departure. It sounds like they're trying to send them off to departure, and there's no response after that because of how quickly I think they sent them to departure, and then they never actually made it to check in with departure control.
123.8, Mike Tango Sierra 056 Medevac. Thank you. Good day.
Medevac Med Service 056, Northeast Tower, contact Philly 123.8. Medevac Med Service Northeast Tower. Medevac Med Service 056, Northeast Tower, you on frequency?
Medevac Mike Tango Sierra 056, Northeast Tower. How do you hear this transmission?
Medevac Med Service 056, Northeast Tower.
So just from a pilot standpoint, that's actually pretty normal. There's times where people get the wrong frequency, they don't connect, or they forget to call, or they check in at the wrong the spot, and it's actually pretty normal to them to kind of try and go back and find you. However, here, unfortunately, is the plane has already crashed, and that won't be speaking to anyone anymore. And we'll watch some of these crash visuals in a second. So going here, these are some crazy angles looking here. These people are just out there. I don't have the audio on just because it's so, but geez, imagine that. Imagine just walking outside right there. Jeez. Now, what I can tell you right here is watching a couple of these videos, that airplane looks like it reminds me if you ever build like one of those homemade or paper airplanes when it's just clearly not working right, like you throw it and it just instantly dives down. There's no glide, no lift to that. I mean, that thing might as well have just been like a missile going straight down. And I'm going to get into in a second why that my theory of what maybe could have caused this. So we'll go forward, skip forward here. Just a straight wow. Oh man, I hate watching this. I don't know about you guys, but I really hate watching these. And one more. This will be the final view we're going to watch. It's basically it might have been a falling rock, if not having more momentum than just actually just falling straight down. Let's go here now to the statement. This is what I think is interesting. A lot of people have said that they think it's a stall. I watched a couple other YouTube pilots. They seem to think it was a stall. But my opinion, my gut reaction as well with this Learjet pilot. So this was a comment from a Learjet pilot on YouTube, and I think he provides some very good insight. He says, "My gut reaction to seeing this video points to a flight control malfunction. We have a system on board the Lear called a yaw dampener. And the yaw dampener system automatically makes small inputs to the rudder surface to keep the fuselage aligned with the relative wind during turns and reduce unwanted roll yaw movements. For example, in turbulence." Now, this is very standard. I'll come back to myself over here real quick. When I was teaching in the simulator in the CRJ, we would turn off the yaw dampener to demonstrate Dutch roll and some other more dangerous maneuvers. Think of yaw dampeners as kind of like putting on the bumpers in the bowling alley, or kind of putting guardrails on the road. That's probably a better analogy. Is it's putting guardrails on it. It doesn't allow the plane to go too crazy. Now let's go back to his statement. He says that in the simulator, we have run scenarios involving a failure of these yaw damper systems on the departure, which causes the rudder surface to fully deflect one side. This creates a very rapid roll. Now, if for those of you not pilots, if the rudder surface fully deflects, that's a very bad day. Like that, you're going to have full correction to try and get out of that. And you better be making some adjustments really quick. So it says this creates a very rapid roll, yaw, that is extremely disoriented when you're flying in clouds with no visual reference. The problem has to be identified and corrected immediately, or you will lose control of the airplane. This investigation will ultimately reveal what went wrong, but I figured I'd add my 2 cents. Now, that was more of my thought. Now there's a chance it's stalled, but I do not see how you take off and get into the clouds and suddenly, the Learjet, as he pointed out, that wasn't even his full comment, but it's very powerful. And now, of course, you can stall the airplane without too much power, like or too much power, like it's possible. But to me, what I'm looking at here is I think there's a chance it was spatial disorientation, but more likely some type of flight control malfunction. The CRJ, for example, has roll and pitch disconnect, where if something, now we would train this in a simulator, and you would be taking off and you would go to move and your aileron was jammed, and you have to pull, twist, pull and twist and pull these levers to disconnect and figure out which one is jammed. But it's a very scary feeling. But if you're taking off into the clouds and all of a sudden you're IMC, which basically means you're in the clouds and you can't see, and suddenly your plane malfunctions, I mean, you have seconds to react. So let's go look in here. So some of my opinions on this. And again, this is just my opinion. I could be wrong about this. I'm just kind of giving you information. Take it as you will. The first thing to remember is part 121 versus 135. When you buy an airline ticket on, let's say, Delta or United or even Spirit, I'm not going to say anything bad about Spirit, you are operating under a 121 carrier. Now, that is extremely tightened on regulations and on how things operate. The rules are stricter. I mean, everything down to maintenance, to pilots, to the rules on how you operate, to barriers and safety is about as strict as you can get. 135 is going to start to be more charter stuff, exactly like this medevac. That's also going to be, if you ever fortunate enough or rich enough to get on a private jet, you're going to be flying on 135. Now, we're going to go over these statistics in a second, but the difference between 121 and 135 is much more relaxed. And so with medevac, you could have different factors, shorter runway, different operational risks that you would not see going on as a passenger at an airline. And they just follow a different set of rules. Now, let's go through the possible causes on this. I would say spatial disorientation could have been a factor, but then maybe not. You got two Learjet pilots, you're taking off into the clouds, you're going fast. Something could have got them. And if you don't know what spatial disorientation is, it's suddenly you stop trusting your instruments and you're looking outside and you think left is right and you're actually pitching down, but you think you're pitching up. So you go the opposite way. And it happens. It does play a factor in some type of things. Now, here's why I threw install, because I can't rule that out, but it's my opinion that that's more unlikely. And as I said before, I think it's definitely a mechanical failure of some type that would have caused that type of just plummet out of the sky, whether it was a full pitch deflection or like the other YouTube user said that maybe that was the yaw dampener system had failed and went full deflection. And before they even knew which way was up, it was too late, which would be horrible if that's the case. The other possible, I'd say it's more of a long shot, but remember, this is medevac. They might be carrying special medical equipment. So, what if stuff that we have, we can only take a certain amount of dry ice or anything, we can't take, why do they ask you about lithium batteries, right? We're more careful about stuff we take on commercial flights, but, they have special equipment. It is possible. What happened if one of their oxygen tanks or some type of medical equipment blew up? And some of those videos, it did almost look like the plane was on fire, but when I watched it closer, I was like, "I actually don't think so." But you never know. There was the one with Al Haynes that landed the plane, I think it was in Des Moines, Iowa, or somewhere over there, where what happened was one of the jets came apart and the rotors split one of the cables that help with the flight controls, and then that caused them to have a bunch of trouble and only be able to partially control the plane. So let's say something's in the back, catches on fire or explodes and takes out part of their, the systems and the flight controls. Again, I don't know, speculation on my part, but I would say that it could be a possibility. It's just I wouldn't completely rule it out, especially when you're carrying medical equipment. I would just to mention, as my opinion, is that this is sensationalized, right? Like, I get it. There's two crashes. It's very scary. But when you put it in the grand scheme of things, this media likes to keep your focus on what sells and what clicks. And trust me, I understand that. But remember, the reason why you hear about these things is because it happens so rarely. Another important thing to remember, this isn't going to go in the stats as like a commercial airline crash. This is going to go as more of a 135 charter operation, which has, lower standards. But let's move on to statistics, just as to remind to close out the video. It's still your odds of a commercial, chance of a commercial accident is 1 in 1.2 million. Okay. Your odds of fatality in a commercial airline, like as on flying commercially, is 1 in 11 million. If you just want to compare that to other thing, your odds of a car accident, I believe, I forgot to put that there. I believe that's dying is 1 in 101. I've seen it as low as 1 in 80. And your odds of being struck by lightning are 1 in 15,000. I don't know about you. I've never been struck by lightning. Maybe if you've been struck by lightning, you can let me know in the comments. But the point being here is I'm getting asked this question a lot. Is it safe? And I would say that yes, you have to look at the stats, right? Of course, it's scary when you see things like this, but when you look at the stats, it's undeniably still safe to fly. And I guarantee you this one and prior, the accident prior that I've covered are both going to be heavily scrutinized. There's going to be changes out of it. And again, that's why aviation keeps getting safer, is because we learn from these mistakes. If you like this video, please like it, drop me a comment, and even consider subscribing. I really appreciate your take. And again, let me know what I can do better. But until next time, stay safe.